Now, a petition calling on the government to protect Northern Ireland veterans from prosecution has surpassed 180,000 signatures.
Well, the campaign warns that plans to scrap the Troubles Legacy Act could reopen historic cases against British troops.
The act, brought in by the Conservatives, halted new inquests and civil cases and offered limited immunity to those cooperating with a truth recovery body. But Labour says it breached human rights laws.
Well, critics, including the Shadow Defence Minister Mark Francois, warn now that it risks creating two-tier justice. And he joins us now. Very good morning to you, Mr Francois.
Good morning.
Good morning. What are your concerns around this, and what do you mean by risking two-tier justice?
Well, the veterans are very, very angry about the government's proposals because the government are trying to push ahead with something called a remedial order in Parliament. That would have two net effects. One, it would open many of these veterans yet again to an endless cycle of investigation and re-investigation, many of them having been investigated multiple times already. And at the same time, the remedial order would make it easier for Gerry Adams and his associates to sue the British taxpayer. So it is two-tier justice. It's one rule for the veterans and it's one rule for Gerry Adams. And the veterans are rightfully very angry, and that's why they started this petition, which I'm pleased to say has over 180,000 signatures. The petition's still open. If any of your viewers watching now want to help defend our Northern Ireland veterans who defended us, they can go on the Parliament website right now and add their name, and the veterans would be very grateful to them if they did.
And Mark Francois, who are we talking about here? How many veterans are affected, and what's their average age? I mean, I guess many of them are pensioners who look back on their service with pride and are now worried about a knock on the door.
Correct. There are over 300,000 British regular soldiers who served in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. Over 700 of them were killed by terrorists, both Republican and so-called loyalists. If you add in the UDR and the RUCGC, it's over 1,400 deaths, in fact. Some of the people they were pursuing were even Chelsea pensioners, incredible though it sounds. Right. And what Labour are proposing would restart that whole conveyor belt again. That is wrong. Now, interestingly, we had, because so many people signed the petition, we had a debate in Westminster Hall in July. Your journalistic colleague, Quentin Letts, said he's been covering Parliament for many years, but he'd never seen Westminster Hall so full. There were veterans in every seat in the public gallery. And since then, the government were due to table the remedial order, but they haven't. We think there's now a row in government between Hilary Benn and the Northern Ireland office who want to go ahead with it, and the MOD who don't. So if nothing less, the veterans process has made the government hesitate. It's made them think again. And I very much hope that they will, as a result of that process, decide to drop the whole thing and allow these men, many of them, as you say, in their 70s or even 80s, to get on with their lives in peace. And
just very quickly, Mark Francois, is this affecting young men and women signing up to the armed forces? If it looks like the government can appear to change the rules on their engagement decades later.
Yes, of course. And people like General the Lord Dannatt, the former head of the army, has spoken out strongly on this. I mean, to put it bluntly, you know, if the government carry on with this, fewer people will join the British Army and more people will leave. Because why would any sane person want to soldier for a government that doesn't have your back?
Yeah. Mark Francois, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much for talking to us on GB News Breakfast.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private internet access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private internet access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Well, the petition's now crossed 180,000. I think we'll get it over 200,000 before it shuts down. So if anybody hasn't signed, please go onto the parliamentary website and sign up. What's plain is that we have won the public argument. This is about soldiers who fought in Northern Ireland, operated under yellow card rules. There's a special rules to keep everything they do within the law, operated under judicial oversight. Everything they did was looked at afterwards. And now all of a sudden, because of the sort of last knockings of the peace process not being resolved properly, we find ourselves with those same soldiers, heroes, many of them, being dragged back to court or facing the risk of being dragged back to court in their 60s, 70s, 80s even, to face charges that will never end in prosecution, never end in conviction, because this is too long ago. And anyway, the issues were resolved at the time, but all for politics, all to basically appease the Sinn Féin Northern Ireland apologists for the IRA and to appease the Irish government. All of these things, our government is sacrificing our soldiers to those political ends. That's the basic argument. And as I say, we've won every argument. We had a debate in Westminster Hall. It was the most packed Westminster Hall I've ever seen, indeed anybody's ever seen. We had really, really strong arguments from many, many Tories and others who had served themselves, told what the story was really like, and a few rather weak sort of whips handout arguments from some Labour members who frankly looked embarrassed when they were making the argument. So, we won the public argument. The question is trying to make the government actually do something about it.
So, David, you must be in contact with some of the veterans who may potentially face prosecution. What does it feel like to go for decades with that hanging over you, knowing that you've served to the best of your ability? Of course, warfare and these kind of operations are never clean, they're never smooth. But what does it feel like to know that there is a possibility of that, even as these men go in late into their lives in their 70s and 80s?
Well, I'd say two things. I mean, I saw a few of them not that long ago in Hereford, and these were not soft characters, but they were clearly distressed by this non-stop sword of Damocles hanging over them, if I can mix my metaphors. But the other thing I'd say is they feel betrayed. They feel that the government who they gave absolute service to put their lives on the line. Some of them died in Northern Ireland. Let's not kid ourselves. Hundreds of soldiers were killed in Northern Ireland. They put their lives on the line, and then in their retirement, they're betrayed. And that's terrible for them, but it's also terrible for today's soldiers. I mean, if you're about to go out and do some difficult operation, and as you say, in the fog of war, and then come back and in 20 years' time, having served your country today, in 20 years' time, you're going to face lawfare in your old age. Well, people are not going to sign up. Or if they do sign up, they're going to resign rather than take on anything which is remotely difficult. And, we have some of the best soldiers in the world, certainly the best special forces in the world. And it would be a great victory for the enemies of civilization if this revisiting of the Northern Ireland Troubles ends up destroying the retirements of, frankly, our military heroes.
And David, of course, it's very one-sided, isn't it? Our military figures face the spectre of prosecution, but because of the deal Blair did as part of the Northern Ireland Agreement, IRA terrorists, gunmen who brutally mowed down people who were innocent, killed many of our soldiers, they've got a lifetime pardon.
Yeah, and that's right. And nearly 2,000 people were killed by them. And the thing to remember, the thing that was so annoying for the soldiers was this finding that some of the killings in one of the battles were unlawful. That's the phrase they used. Every single killing by the IRA, and for that matter, the UVF and the UDA, don't forget there were terrorists on the other side too. Every single one was unlawful. Every single one was a murder. And these people pose as soldiers. They talk about the East Tyrone Brigade and the Armagh Brigade and so on. They did things that no soldier in the British Army certainly would ever countenance doing. Murdered their prisoners, tortured people, blew up civilians, women, children, only for the sake of getting publicity for their cause, not for any military aim. These are things no soldier in Britain, indeed most of our allies, would do. And yet they're now trying to suggest that decisions made in the heat of battle, while you're being shot at by somebody else, maybe after you've been blown up in the case of Loughgall already, this is somehow illegal. It's not. It was actually them doing their job and, frankly, saving lives, because it was only the intervention of the military that brought to an end the massive, almost genocidal killing spree that the IRA and its antagonists went into in the early parts of the Troubles.
Well, Sir David Davis, thank you for joining us this morning, and good luck with your campaign, David Davis there. I do think that's such a good point about reducing people's willingness to sign up. If you know that...
Why would you enlist?
Yeah.
Or to be a copper either.
Exactly, yeah.
It's happened in various high-profile police cases,
yeah.
if you're then potentially going to be prosecuted for doing your job.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who's never served, I cannot imagine what it must be like, the pressure of a live situation where there's live ammunition,
sure.
having to make those split-second decisions. And you may make mistakes, but you've got to know that you're covered in future, otherwise it's not worth it.
And they were defending this country, or Queen and country, from murderous terrorists who, as David said, brutally picked on children and women and families to get publicity.
Exactly.
Think of the bomb at the war terminal in Enniskillen on Remembrance Sunday.
That's right, but like you say, the police have suffered similar drop in numbers of police officers being willing to carry firearms, again, because they are worried about prosecutions. But it just makes us all less safe, doesn't it, if people aren't willing to defend us.